What's up guys, Gary with self.dev. Today we're going to go deeper down the rabbit hole of doing stuff with vanilla JavaScript. I've had some people asking how to render components with the vanilla JS router, so that's what we're going to dive in today. But first, let me take a sip of coffee out of my self.dev logo mug available in the merch shop. We've also got this wonderful new, I don't have commitment issues, I have merge conflicts mug. And then we added the Git logo to our Get Wrecked hoodie. Check that out in the description below. Hopefully on the shelf below this video, but if not, there's going to be a link, should be the first thing in the description. Support me, it means a lot. If you can't, just give me a thumbs up, that helps too. So anyway, let's get going. Well, first thing we're going to do here, if you don't have this and you're not where we are right now, look in the description. I'll have a link to the video where I make a router with vanilla JS. You can follow along through that video and then it should get you caught up to where we are now. Or I'm probably not gonna make this a repo. So yeah, just go watch the previous video, get caught up, and then you can follow along. Or if you just wanna watch, that's fine too. But we're gonna make a new folder here called components. And then inside of here, we're gonna make a few components. The first one we're gonna call site header.js. The next one we're going to call site footer.js, and then we're also going to have a product card.js file. So the site header and footer are obviously going to be the header and the footer that's displayed across the whole site, and then the product card, that'll be something we render multiple times when we go to the product page to show different products that we have. So yeah. Let's dig into the site header first. So first thing we're going to do in here, we're going to make a new class and then call this site header. And this is going to extend HTML element, or extends with an S, there we go. And then inside here, we're going to have a constructor, of course. We're going to make super. And then down below this, we are going to create, or no, we're gonna use the custom elements API to define. Now this is the name of the HTML element that our component is going to be. When you make a web component, you have to have a dash in the name, and this is just to prevent the collision of web components and HTML native elements in the future. So like HTML, there's like an HTML nav to prevent you from doing that with web components. It needs to be like nav dash component or something like that. Obviously that's spelled wrong, but we're just going to call this one site dash header. But that's to prevent collisions in the future. And then after this, we need to give it the class that we want it to actually render. So we'll say site header. And then of course we need to export default site header. And then we need to go to our app.js and import it. Components / site header. Make sure you have that .js. Again, we're not using any build tools, so make sure you include the file extensions. Otherwise, they will not import correctly. Cool, so that's the boilerplate. Now we need to actually set up our custom web component. So first thing we're gonna do is say const shadow. Web components use the shadow DOM. We'll say this.attach shadow, and then we need to say mode open. And this lets us just see it in Chrome's inspector. I believe if this is false, I don't believe it shows up in Chrome's inspector. Then we need to give our component stuff inside it. Otherwise, it's just gonna be an empty component on the screen. Now, I think back at Chase, we would usually do template. And this is gonna be a template literal. And then inside here, we'll have the HTML that we want our component to render. And then we'll handle cloning that and attaching that in here. So we'll say const template L equals document dot create element template. So the template element in HTML is not actually shown, it's just used to store content essentially. And then below that we will say template L dot inner HTML, and we need to set that equal to our template, which is the variable that we're creating up here. And then lastly, we need to say shadow.append child, and then we need to get the template L content dot, oop, that's not what we want. Did I not spell content right? Content dot clone node, and then we need to point it to the node that we want to clone, and then we just need to say true in here. If you don't say true, it's not going to make a deep clone. We want it to make a deep clone because we might have deeply nested HTML. And then in here, we're going to have our site header stuff, which I believe we're just hard coding that in the HTML right now. So we're going to copy this and throw that in here, and then we're going to wrap it in a div. And then let's just clean this up a little bit so it looks prettier. There we go, cool. And then I guess instead of a div, we should use nav here. And then we're also going to throw in a style tag and close our style tag. And then inside here, we're gonna say nav background. It's going to be, we'll just do 333. I don't have a great color scheme planned for this. It's probably not gonna look great. We're just gonna throw some stuff in there so it looks a little bit better. We want the nav A elements to have color white. And then we'll give this padding 1 EM. And then we'll see how that looks when we get it in there. So we are going to just add this directly to our HTML. Otherwise, every time we change where we're at on our route, we're gonna have to re-render this. But if we just include it here, whatever we wanna re-render, we can do in our little entry content div, and the site header and site footer will persist throughout, so they don't have to be destroyed and re-rendered every time. And I guess we can go ahead and, we're gonna name it site footer. We can go ahead and stick that there as well. HTML will render this, it's just not really gonna know what it is or do anything with it. We're on port 50 or 550. Cool, so we've got our little header here. If we inspect this, we can see that we've got our site header. I hope that's zoomed in enough here. My head's not covering it up, cool. Yeah, we've got our site header web component. We've got the shadow root. I don't know if this shows up by default, so if you don't have the shadow root here, go to settings, scroll down to elements, and then click on show user agent shadow root. Should be the first one here, but that will ensure that shadow root shows up for you. You can open this up, we can look in the style tag, we can look in the nav, and we can see everything that we created there. Now, important thing to note about web components, the shadow root is not affected by external styles. So let's say we want to add a new element here. We'll call this, we'll just target all of the A elements because we know we're using some A tags here. And then if we want to say color red important, they're still white. So theoretically, this should be affecting our A tags and making them red because this is important, right? All your CSS life, you've been told that important overrides everything else. Well, not if it's inside a web component. If we look in here in our nav A tags, we can see that the important, or the red, is not even, you don't even see it. The styles for the web components are completely encapsulated on their own, which is why we need to include this style tag here and style it on our web component. This is kind of what we did at Chase, because at Chase we had a design system made out of web components, but we were supporting 5 different kind of themes. So depending on what team was consuming the web component, they would pass in a token here, and that token would tell our component what styles to load, and that would ensure that everything was consistent across whatever team was using our web components. So that's our header. Let's go ahead and throw our footer together real quick. I might kind of skip through this in the editing because it's going to be a little repetitive. Actually, just gonna copy and paste this from my notes. So if you wanna pause and just copy what I've got here, do that, but I'm just gonna kind of have what I have from my notes pasted here. But we're basically just setting the style of the footer, the background colors to the same as the header. We want the color stuff to be white, the text line center, padding 1 EM 0. This is the content of our footer. It's just like a copyright thing kind of. And then we're declaring the web component the same way we did before. We've got class site footer extends our HTML element. We've got our constructor super. We've got shadow open. We're creating our template. We're setting the inner HTML of the template to this, and then we're just cloning that node and the same stuff we did in the site header. So let's go back here. Cool, and we can see we've got our footer here as well. Now, just to make this a little nicer, we're gonna go grab the body. We're gonna set the margin equal to 0, padding equal to 0. We'll say display flex, align items, justify. That's not what we want. We want flex direction column, and then I think we want justify content space between. Does that do what we want? No, because we're not importing the CSS yet, right? So we need to go to our HTML. We need to say, or what is a style tag? No, it's not a style. It's a link CSS. There we go. And then we got style.css. Cool. So that should import our CSS. And then if we go here, we see the body got rid of the padding, but why? Oh, because we have that entry. No, well, that should be doing what we expect here. Oh, we need to set the height of the body. So we need to do min height 100 view height. Cool. Now we've got our nice little footer and header at the top here. Now, you might notice that our links up here don't work. Why is that? That's because we can't actually access anything in here with document.querySelector like we were before. So we need to modify how we're grabbing that in our router here. It's not too big of a change. All we need to do is, instead of grabbing this right out of the document, we need to do query selector, and we need to grab our web component. So we'll grab site-header, because that's the name of the HTML element that's rendered in the page. And then we need to say shadow root .query selector all. So this is gonna grab our web component and then dive into the shadow root, and then it should still get the A tags from there. So now if we do this, we go there, we have products, cart, home, products, cart, home, blah, blah, blah. Cool, so our footer and our header work correctly. Now let's say we want to be able to go to the products page and see some cards for different products. How do we set that up? Well, let's go in here. We're gonna grab our footer and just paste that in here so we kind of have a template to work off of. We're just gonna name this product card. These class names do not have to match the name of your JS file. I just do that just so I know. It helps with readability and knowing like what's in the file, for me at least. And then we'll replace it there, and we'll just call this product-card. And then our template's still template. We're still extending HTML element. Everything else should still be good to go. Now, in our hypothetical scenario, we'll say that whenever you go to the products page, we want to render 3 or 4 product cards with the name of the product and the price. You probably have an image if you were doing this live, but I don't have images and I'm not gonna go grab random image links to use right now. So we're gonna say const data equals an array of objects. And this is hypothetically what we would get back from our get products fetch request, right? Each one will have a name and a price. And then we'll just copy that, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one will be 15. This one's gonna be 6. Just kind of add random numbers here so we have some variety. And then the name of the products. I'm not gonna get super creative with product names. We're actually just gonna use colors. Maybe you're buying colors for some reason. Blue is super expensive. Black is 3. Orange is 6. And then the last color we'll use is gonna be pink, just because you can get more creative and actually add product names if you want there. But that's what we're going to use for now. And then inside of our products route here, obviously need to make some adjustments for this to handle the asynchronicity. Maybe you want to add a skeleton component. If you've ever gone to YouTube, on that initial load, it loads skeleton components. So it's got the shape of the element that's going to be there on the page. It just doesn't have any data. They use that to reduce the cumulative layout shift of the page. So you can do something like that to handle the asynchronicity of this, because I mean, if you're going to make an API request, there's going to be some delay. And for the sake of this tutorial, we're not going to do that. We're going to just say data.for each product, because these are all going to be products, and we're going to do some stuff in there. But first, we need to go to our product card, and we're going to need a way to, one, we're going to need to adjust our template. And then 2, we're gonna need a way to pass in the data or update the data in the web component. So each one gets its own little like name and price. So how do we do that? We're gonna have a setter right here. We're gonna call this add card data. And this is going to get a product. And just for sanity, we're gonna console log product before we do any of that. In here, instead of the footer, this is going to be a div, and this is going to have the ID of, or actually a class, because the idea is we're going to render this product card web component multiple times. So obviously we don't want to repeat class names, but this will be a product. I guess we'll just call it product card. Why not? And then we'll have an empty, I guess we actually don't need anything in there right now. We just need that product card hook to hold our data. We will kind of style this a little bit. Let's go to our old friend CSS box shadow generator, because I like to use this to visualize what my shadow is going to look like. We want this to be more opaque. We'll do like 0.5. We'll make the blur radius a little heavier there, and then we'll drop that off to the side and the bottom a little bit more, and then we'll just grab this box shadow style and throw that right here. We probably do want the background to be, we'll make the background white. Should already be white, but we're just going to redeclare that for sanity, I guess. We'll say border equals solid black 1 pixel. We'll do the text line center, and then we'll keep the padding the same. Cool. So now in here, for each product in the API request that we get back, one, we want to create an element for each one, right? So we'll say const product L equals document dot. Actually, where do we want to insert this? We're gonna change our div to an ID of main container. Where was I grabbing that here? We'll do that. We'll change this to a div. Product L dot, what do we call our setter in product card? It is add card. And then we're gonna set this equal to product. So for each product in our little fetch request, that gets set appropriately. And then lastly, we need to do L dot append child product L, because we created this div here. And then down here, that's what we append to the DOM, or append to main container. So that's what we need our product L or product card web components to be inside. And then we can just kind of remove the space there. And then in our product card, we're console logging that. In app.js, we need to import product card from, there we go, cool. And then let's go see if this works. So home, products, yeah, we get the stuff here. So we know our components are showing, it console logs it. Now we just need to put the data in the appropriate place, right? So we'll go here, we'll go back to our product card, and then we'll insert this just like you would anything else in vanilla JavaScript. We'll say const card equal this dot shadow root dot query selector, because we are referencing this element. We still need to access the shadow root though. And then we want to get the product card, which is this div we created here. And then that's going to give us the access to our, or that's going to select our product card element that we need to append data to. And then inside here, we can do const content is going to be a document.create elements. And this is just going to be a p tag, because that's what we're going to have inside there. And then content.text content. So again, this is content's actually an HTML paragraph element, as you can see here, and then we're accessing text content on that paragraph element, and we need to set that equal to what, product.name. I think this needs to be basically a template literal. And then we'll do product.price. And lastly, we need to append that to our product card div. So we'll say card.append child, and then we want to append the content. Hopefully, I hope these names are not getting super confusing. I think we'll actually make that like a dash, just so that'll look a little nicer. And then let's adjust this. So instead of rows, we'll say max width 300 pixels. Display, actually, no, that'd be the parent. We need to change the styles on that for it, but nah. All right, let's go look at that, see how that looks. Home, products, cannot read properties of null, rating append child. So what did we not get correct here? What line was that in? Line 31. So we'll go here, look at line 31. We forgot the period here for the class selector. Hey, there we go. Cool. So now we have red 5, blue 73, black 3, orange 6, pink 15. And then ideally, if this is like production, you'd have probably an image for each product, and then a button for like add to cart. And then if we switch to home, it clears out everything. Same with cart. And then we go back to products. You'd probably want to cache your API request for this data. So there's that. But I mean, that's more nuanced stuff that's outside the scope of this specific tutorial. But that is how you would get components to render on the page. Again, if we inspect these and look in here, we can see that each one of these is a product card HTML element. And then inside the shadow root, we've got the data we want. So, hope you learned something from this. If you did, give me a thumbs up so YouTube knows I'm doing good stuff. Support the channel. Go check out the merch shop. Buy something that looks cool. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the description below. If you would like me to expand on this further and show you more about web components and vanilla.js stuff, let me know. Happy to do that. If you want to come hang out in the Discord or talk tech in the self.dev subreddit, links to both of those are in the description as well. Anything else I need to talk about? I don't think so. If you want to work with me, go to my portfolio, fill out a form. I'm looking for new work. That's a thing. But aside from that, I think we're good to go. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Round 1.